to serve them better? Am I humble, and do I listen to everybody, to diverse opinions in order to choose the best path? And that if we don't ask those questions, our governance will not be good. The man or woman who governs, who loves his people, is a humble man or woman. We also thank those who are governed, who lift up prayers for those in authority, so that they might be able to lead a calm and peaceful lives. For citizens cannot be indifferent to politics, but instead they also have to be responsible for the governance of those who govern. Politics, according to the social doctrine of the Church, is one of the highest forms of charity because it serves the common good, and the citizens should participate as we all have to give something for the common good. Pray for all people and for all in authority. For a Christian who does not pray for those who govern is not a good Christian. Let us pray for our leaders that they might govern well, that they might advance our nation and lead even our world forward for the sake of peace and of common good. This we ask through your Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Senator Villar. The Secretary will please call the roll.
Roll call of members. The Honorable Senators Angara, Aquino, Binay, Cayetano Alan Peter Compañero S., Cayetano Pia S., Defensor Santiago, Ejercito, Enrile, Escudero, Estrada, Gingona, Unasan, Lapid, Legarda, Marcos, Usmeña, Pimentel, Po, Recto, Revilla, Soto, Trillanes, Villar, Senate President Drilon. 21.
21 senators are present. The chair declares the presence of a quorum. The majority leader is recognized.
Good afternoon, Mr. President. I hope you don't feel left out. You're not on the list. Mr. President, I move that we dispense with the reading of the journal of the 69th session, May 12, 2014, and consider the same as approved.
There's a motion to dispense with the reading of the journal of May 12, 2014, session number 69. Is there any objection? Hearing none, the reading of the journal is dispensed with and the same is hereby approved.
Mr. President, I move that we proceed with the reference of business.
The Secretary will read the reference of business.
Bill on first reading. Senate number 2219, entitled An Act to Improve and to Promote Quality Delivery of Health Services in Barangays, enacting the Barangay Health Workers and Services Reform Act of 2014 by Senator Grace Poe.
Health and Demography, Local Government Finance.
Communications, letters from the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas transmitting to the Senate copies of the following certified and authenticated BSP issuances in compliance with Section 15A of Republic Act number 7653 or the New Central Bank Act. Circular letter number CL 2014-21, 22, 23, 24, and 25 dated 5/7/10, 26 and 31 March 2014. CL 2014-29 dated 8 April 2014. Circular numbers 812, corrected copy, dated 23 September 2013, 828 and 829, dated 11 and 13 March 2014, 830, dated 3 April 2014, and memorandum numbers M 2014-9, 10, 11, 12, 15, 16, and 17, dated 7, 10, 14, 19, 21, and 24 March 2014, M 2014-18, 19, and 20, dated 3, 10, and 22 April 2014.
Committee on Banks, Financial Institutions, and Currencies.
Additional reference of business. Resolutions. PS Resolution number 640 directing the proper Senate Committee to conduct an inquiry in aid of legislation on the utilization and audit processes of monetary donations given by international organizations and other local non-government agencies to the victims of Super Typhoon Yolanda to promote transparency and the effective use of the fund for the interest of the public and for other purposes by Senator Joseph Victor Ejercito.
Local governments.
PS Resolution number 641 directing the appropriate Senate committee to investigate in aid of legislation the alleged monopoly of GAMCA Philippines on medical examinations of OFWs bound for Gulf countries such as Kuwait, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, Bahrain, Oman, and UAE in violation of RA 10022, an act amending Republic Act No. 8042, otherwise known as Migrant Workers and Overseas Filipino Act of 1995 by Senator Joseph Victor Ejercito.
Labor, Employment, Human Resources Development.
PS Resolution Number 642, directing the Senate Committee on Local Government to conduct a comprehensive mandatory review of Republic Act 7160, otherwise known as the Local Government Code of 1991, in order to provide a more responsive and accountable local government structure by Senator Marcos Jr.
Local Government.
PS Resolution Number 643, congratulating Donnie Nietes for winning and retaining the World Boxing Organization Light Flyweight title at the Mall of Asia Arena by Senator Maria Lourdes Nancy S. Binay.
Rules.
Yes, Resolution Number 644, honoring and commending the contributions of veteran Filipino broadcast journalist Angelo Castro Jr. and Harry Gasor in elevating the standards of Philippine broadcast media by Senator Ligarda.
Rules.
Second, additional reference of business. Committee report. Committee report number 28, submitted by the Committee on Public Services on House Joint Resolution number 10, introduced by Representative Agabao et al., entitled Joint Resolution approving the transfer, sale, or assignment of the controlling interest of Zest Airways, Inc., formerly known as Asian Spirit, Inc., to Air Asia, Inc., recommending its approval without amendment. Sponsor, Senator Ramon Bong Revilla, Jr.
Calendar for ordinary business. Majority Leader.
Mr. President, may I ask for a minute suspension?
Suspended for 1 minute.
Mr. President, ready to resume?
Session is resumed.
Mr. President, I move that we resume consideration of Senate Bill number 27, taking into consideration Senate Bill number 499 under Committee Report number 19. This is the picture-based health warning bill, Mr. President.
Any objection? Hearing none. Consideration, resumption of Senate Bill 27 under Committee Report number 19 is in order. What is the parliamentary status of this measure, Mr. Majority Leader?
Mr. President, we are in the period of interpellation, so may I move that we recognize the sponsor, Senator Pia Cayetano.
Senator Pia Cayetano is recognized on the period of interpellation.
Mr. President, may I also ask that we recognize to interpellate the former Senate President and now the Minority Leader, Senator Juan Ponce Enrile.
Senator Juan Ponce Enrile will continue his interpellation on the measure. Senator Enrile is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. May I continue my interpellation?
Please proceed, Senator Enrile.
During my last questioning on this particular bill, Mr. President, I dealt with the explanatory note, and one of the points that I raised was the countries that ratified the Framework Convention on Tobacco Control, which is, I understand, a World Health Organization sponsored convention. And it turned out that 192 countries participated in that convention, and of the 192 countries, 178 became signatories to the convention, 14 did not, and of the 178 signatories, so far according to the replies of the distinguished lady sponsor of this measure, 72 have already legislated or passed legislations to comply with the convention. And so I would like to start with the text of the measure, particularly Section 2, Declaration of Principles. And I refer to lines 17 on page 1 of the measure, all the way to line 2 of page 2. And I would like to read this portion of the Statement of Declaration of Policy. The state recognizes that based on empirical data, tax warnings have been shown to be insufficient in conveying the dangers of tobacco products, while graphic or picture-based health warnings have been shown to be more effective in conveying the truth about the dangers of exposure and consumption of tobacco smoke. Do we have this empirical data upon which we support this statement, Mr. President?
I'm sorry, Mr. President, was there a question? I'm sorry if I didn't catch that. I thought you were just
Yes,
still...
I read this portion.
Yes, I heard it, but I'm sorry if I didn't catch there was a question at the
I
end.
would like to find out if we have this empirical data
Okay.
upon which or that would support this statement
Yes.
in the Declaration of Policy.
I have a few things, Mr. President. I'm just checking now for the other so I can read it all at once. Mr. President, I have a chart that shows that text warnings are noticed by 90% of adults. However, only 38% think of quitting because of these health warnings, the text-based warnings. So because of data like this, but I do know that we have others, and I will put it into the record as soon as it is forwarded to me. There was a move, I believe it started in Canada, to introduce a new set of warnings. And it actually started with other text warnings that were more creative, and then later on, they moved on to graphic warnings.
Was this based on an actual survey, or what? How was this done to determine the impact of text warning on the, I suppose, on the number of cigarette smokers, both those already in it and the new entrants. How was this study done in order that we as legislators would understand whether we have to adapt this and incorporate it in a legislation that we are crafting for the country?
Well, Mr. President, during the hearings that were conducted over the last 3 Congresses, there were repeated presentations given to us that showed us that the incident of smoking has not gone down with the current text warnings that were available. I'm asking, I will submit when it is given to me the data that was also shown in the different hearings. But that conclusion was very clear that based on the current practices over the decades with those text warnings, there has not been any significant effect on the as far as the warnings were concerned with the smokers. And that is why there was a move to change the text warnings to graphic warnings.
Yes.
And I will be happy to submit it once it is given to me.
Was the study, or did the study rather show the starting point of the text warning, the level of smokers, and the number of potential smokers, new entrants into smoking at that point in time, and the growth or reduction of the market for cigarettes over time when the text warning system was adopted?
Yes, I believe what was presented to us during those hearings were data that showed that there continues to be an increase in the number of smokers, particularly in the young smokers, in the youth, the minors, with the current practices in place.
No. So I come back to the question that I raised in the beginning. Do we have an actual date when text warning was introduced and the country that first adopted text warning? Because we will have to see a comparative study here of 2 systems of warnings, one text warning and one picture-based warning, based on the empirical data or experience of other countries ahead of us who adopted both. So see whether indeed, if we adopt this, it has a salutary impact in our country. And it's worth our effort to reduce the source of tax revenue for the government, because surely it will mean in time a reduction of tax revenue from this source, and that has an impact on the social services that the government will provide our people.
Mr. President, in 1965, the Congress of the United States...
1965.
65.
65.
The Congress of the United States passed the Cigarette Labeling and Advertising Act, wherein it said that every cigarette pack must contain a label that states cigarettes may be hazardous to your health.
That was 1965.
Yes, Mr. President.
And when did the United States adopt the picture-based warning?
Sorry, Mr. President, I didn't hear.
And when did the United States, the U.S.,
when did
adopt a picture-based warning, if they did?
in the U.S.?
Yes.
It's not. Is it adopted in the U.S.? It's not. No?
I think I heard that the U.S. adopted
The law has been
the
passed.
text
The law has been passed.
warning system in 1965.
Filed by the
Di ba?
tobacco companies.
Yes.
Yeah. Mr. President, the U.S. has passed a law requiring graphic health warnings, but this was questioned by the tobacco companies in the courts.
And that has not been resolved? That
I,
case?
I believe so. I believe it is still pending because the law has not been implemented yet.
When was the case filed by the cigarette companies to question the
Sorry, Mr. President, when?
when was the case filed by the filing parties?
Can I get back to you, Mr. President? We're still checking on that data.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Hey, I don't understand this. Is this text? Is this graphic? Because it's
Now, over this long period of time, 1965, that was the first appearance of text warning, health warning, no? Text health warning. The first time that a text warning was introduced. That's 35 years ago plus 14. It's 49,
Almost half a century.
Yes,
almost
around
half a
49
century.
years ago, yes.
Now, is there any perceptible decrease according to studies, if there are studies and if the sponsor knows, Mr. President, that would show that there was a perceptible decrease in the United States level of smokers, or if there are decrease in the number of entrants, and then we're comparing it with the text warning, the picture-based warning that has not been adopted because a case has been filed in court. How long ago? That's why I'm interested to get
Yes,
this figure.
they're looking for the data, but when we crafted the law, I recall that is exactly the data that was presented to us, that precisely the numbers of smokers, particularly in the young, have gone up, and therefore whatever measures were currently in place were not sufficient. That is the reason for the shift to a graphic-based warning all over the world.
Yeah, what would be the best country to be used as an example of a comparative study of the impact of a text warning system versus a picture-based warning system?
I will pull out my resource
Would that be
persons are.
Canada or?
Yes, they're giving me the data, but allow me to put on record what I recall was presented to us during the hearings. First of all, I think it's quite logical to conclude that if the response that the health advocates and health authorities are not, if the response they would like to see in terms of a healthier population is not being reflected in current practices, it would appear that the responsible thing to do would be to shift that to some other method, and that is why the shift to graphic warning was made. At the time I first sponsored this measure, I think in around 2007 or 2008, this was fairly new in most countries, and already at that time I put on record, it would be in the journal actually, because there were interpellations already at that time, and I read into the record the data showing the response of the users or the consumers or the potential consumers to the graphic warning. I will also ask that the journal be pulled out because that is actually already on record. And from my recollection, it was clear that there was a much bigger impact on the graphic warning, especially among the youth. So it's just a matter of time that I can give the copy to His Honor because it was in the journal during the interpellations a few years ago.
I would like to know when that case questioning the picture-based warning system was raised before the courts, whether it was raised in the uh, state courts or whether it was raised in the federal courts, and if in the federal courts, whether it was in the circuit courts or in the Supreme Court of the United States. Because knowing the efficiency of the U.S. judicial system, I'm sure that given the social impact of such a case, they would have acted on it with dispatch in order to settle the issue. And
Well-
I'm quite surprised that we are hearing now that the case is still pending up to this time.
Well, actually, Your Honor, I personally am not surprised because the tobacco lobby is quite strong. And from my little understanding of U.S. politics and history, when a lobby is strong, we have seen cases where the resolution of cases take more time. So I personally am not surprised that in the U.S., as opposed to other countries, they have not been able to resolve this. I see the same in other industries, including the beef industry, the cattle industry, including the formula milk industry, which is something I know a little bit more about, also because I was chairman of the Committee on Health. So that is something, that is just my personal opinion.
Yes.
And I'm holding right now a report which should be able to clarify some of the questions His Honor is asking. I'm just waiting for the next page so I can read it into the record. But it is a report on the text and graphic warnings on cigarette packages. It's a comparative report on the difference between text and graphic warnings done on 4 countries.
I understand. Somebody informed me that a case was filed before the U.S. Supreme Court, and I don't think any lobby in the world can influence the U.S. Supreme Court. And actually, the case has been resolved a long time ago, and that the U.S. Supreme Court struck down a proposed law establishing a 50%, 50-50 picture-based warning system in cigarette packages. I do not know whether this is true, but that is the information I've received.
I don't know either, Mr. President. I'm still asking the resource person to give me the information. As soon as they give it to me, as in fact including the latest status, I will summarize it on the floor.
Anyway, if we are going to be favored with this measure, this decision, since we are discussing a very major bill on that will have an impact on our consumers, then I would suggest that the sponsor should inform the Senate about.
I will be happy to inform the Senate, Mr. President. In fact, within
U.S. Supreme Court case.
Within the time that we are conducting the interpellation, I am quite confident that they can give me something that I can read quickly and either summarize for the body or submit.
I will not belabor this issue, but I would like that this matter.
Yes, I will also. I would also be happy to know what the resolution is.
Yes. Now, I'll go to the purpose of this bill. Obviously, the purpose of this bill is to minister to the health of the nation, and I'm all for that. But on the other hand, as I pointed out earlier, this is a class of 2 general functions of government. One, to raise money for the support of government programs. Second is to minister to the security, to the safety, to the health, and other social concerns of the people of this country. Now, obviously, as I went over this entire bill, it would seem to me that the tendency of this bill is to really clamp down on smoking. And I think that's a noble objective because of the known hazard of smoking to smokers of cigarettes especially. But then the question becomes up. If this is indeed the direction that all ingestible or products, whether eaten, whether smoked, ingested through your breath, or whether you drink, that are disease-causing products, is it now the tendency of our policy to minister to the health of the people that we will legislate on this area? For instance, in the case of alcohol, many people die of cancer and all kinds of diseases because of alcoholic drinks. Only yesterday, a relative of one of my household died of cirrhosis of the liver because of drinking. Now, are we going also to legislate on this and require them to graphically show the dangers of drinking alcoholic beverages, whether wine of all kinds, or whether distilled spirits, sparkling wines? Are we going to legislate in this area also, like what we are going to do, now doing, in the case of tobacco?
My response, Mr. President, personally, yes, I would be happy to legislate in those areas. I am not a health expert in terms of professional qualifications, but I definitely am a health advocate, and the research tells us that there are many misconceptions among the people about the food that they ingest. So precisely as His Honor says, is it everything that we ingest? Should it be regulated? To some extent, yes. There are many moves now in developed countries, including the U.S. and in Europe, to require certain types of labelings on food products for babies, in food products marketed to the general public, to lessen or to address the confusion as what is the meaning of low calorie, of light, of less. There is legislation that requires that chains of restaurants and coffee shops must include the calorie content and other nutritional information on their menus and in the display counters where their cakes and pastries are displayed. So definitely, Mr. President, it appears that the practice all over the world is for government to really provide information for people. It is, I believe, we should consider it information campaign, because that is really what it is, information. With respect to alcohol, I can only, until any of my resource persons would give me some more details, I am personally familiar just by observation that in the U.S. there is a requirement that alcoholic beverages have some kind of statement that drinking while you are pregnant is injurious, may be injurious to, well, drinking may be injurious to pregnancy, something like that. I am not familiar what other labeling requirements there are. Sorry, I do know of another one. Another one is drinking while driving, and the actual statements, I think, vary from state to state. So definitely the answer is yes. There are many moves that can be seen in terms of providing more information by way of legislation or in the administrative levels all over the world.
Now, the reason why I posed that question, because On line 11, page 2, paragraph C, on statement of purpose, to further promote the right to health and information of the people. Now, if this is a very general statement, so and a statement of policy. So, cholesterol is one of the well-known causes of heart attack and problems of the, what do you call this, the blood vessels of every human being, including cerebral strokes. Are we going to legislate or pass some laws also that would affect people who are marketing cholesterol-producing products?
If His Honor's question is if this law will cover other products other than tobacco, I think His Honor would know that I am limited by the scope of the bill, and that is specified in the title. As to other measures in the future, definitely, Mr. President.
The reason why I'm raising this question, because we're discussing the legislation that is supposed to deal with the health, the right to health of the people, and I'm just trying to figure out what this Congress and future Congresses of the country would probably do if after we have succeeded in passing a legislation like this.
Well,
because this is a precedent where we are dealing with curtailment of products that would affect the health of the people. And if we can do it in tobacco, we can do it in alcohol, we can do it in sugar, we can do it in other disease-producing products. And there are so many disease-causing, producing products that we ingest. So that's why I raised this question. But anyway, I just want to know get the reaction of the sponsor of this measure.
yes, and that is my reaction, Your Honor. I believe that I think it's quite obvious that we both know that legislatively we are limited to the subject matter indicated in the bill. So for purpose of the bill, the health aspect, as I have said, that I am limited in addressing here is the tobacco-based health detrimental effects, and that would be through graphic warnings. As to other health measures, this would not be covered by the scope of this law, this bill, but it is very likely that the Committee on Health would be entertaining similar bills that would address other health issues, including harmful practices, harmful products. I would believe that the committee would be open to that.
Yes. Anyway, I am just pointing this out so that we'll have some guide in some future days if we come to deal with similar proposals on other products. I'll go to the definitions. Principal display surfaces. This is from line 30, page 2, all the way to line 11, page 3. In the case of a package and carton that has at least two equal sides or surfaces other than the top and porous bottom that may be displayed or visible under normal or customary conditions of sale or use, the areas of each of the two largest surfaces. Well, that is supposed to be the display area.
Yes, if I may show, Mr. President, so that means that we have to display it this way. This is the two largest surfaces, and so it must be displayed this way. It cannot be displayed on the side or this way. It must be the largest panel surface must be shown to the consumers on the shelves.
Well, I used to be a heavy cigarette smoker, so I would like to find out when you manufacture cigarettes, you make these sticks. Before we used to smoke unfiltered cigarette, so there was no filter when I started smoking, and these sticks with a certain measurement are packed in tin foil inside. First tin foil, then they're put in either a soft pack or a hard pack. Then the soft pack, if it is a soft pack, it's covered by cellophane wrapper. The same thing with hard pack. And these are placed in cartons. I think, if I remember correctly, of 10, a line, 2 lines, one after the other, of 5 packs. And each pack contains 20 sticks, if I remember correctly. I used to smoke Winston cigarette. I never smoked Marlboro. It was not yet used during my time. It came only during the war. I used to smoke Cycle, Piedmont, Akebono, and so forth and so on during the war. Chesterfield. Now, then these cartons are packed in boxes. And then after the boxes, you put them in container vans to transport them somewhere else. If you transport them from one location to another location for marketing. I suppose that if I understand this thrust of this bill, you start the labeling and the warnings, not the interior of the pack, but on the surface of the pack. Am I correct in this?
This is the actual sample. So this is where the label will be.
Yes, I have that. I've seen that. Meron ka ba, hindi ba? This is the cartoon, flipped up. And then I do not have a soft pack. Do we have a soft pack? Soft pack. One is Winston. The other one is Fortune. Fortune Tobacco. This is a local brand. Winston is a foreign brand. I used to smoke this. Now, both are covered by cellophane. And if we adopt this bill, are we going to require them to put picture-based health warnings also on the cellophane?
No, Mr. President, because the cellophane does not obstruct the picture. So it's okay that there is a cellophane on top of it.
Yeah, because the tobacco product package, it says here transparent wrappers.
This is transparent as long as the cellophane is of the type that, let's say, it doesn't have a shine or a gloss that would distort the picture, then that is fine. So as long as the picture is not distorted and not obstructed, they can put a clear wrap, a cellophane. That is fine.
But if the packaging material is a transparent cellophane, they must put a picture-based warning.
Not on the cellophane. On the carton itself, the graphic warning is on the carton, and the cellophane, for so long as the cellophane is transparent and clear and does not result in obstructing the picture on the carton, then there is no need for a print. I'm not aware. I think this is already a settled practice abroad, and the suppliers, those in the business of selling cigarettes here would know because they comply with the graphic warning in other countries. So that is an issue that is very clear to them.
Yeah, the reason why I'm clarifying that was because on paragraph E, tobacco product package, line 12, all the way to line 18 of on page 3, it says here, tobacco product package means the packet and package of tobacco products and any outside packaging and labeling of tobacco products for sale, distribution, exportation, importation, trade, exchange, or exhibition, such as but not limited to packs, tins, boxes, pouches, flip tops, slide and shell packages, cartons, transparent wrappers, clear packaging, packages containing one product unit, master cases, or other containers of tobacco products. By the way, you did not mention bales. You know, most of our tobacco products going abroad are in bales before, no?
Yes, I'll be happy to clarify that, Mr. President. The intention of letter E was to ensure that regardless of the type of packaging used, there must be a graphic warning. Therefore, if there is already a graphic warning on the carton and on top of the carton, there will be a transparent wrapper, there would be no need to duplicate the same. So this is just there in the event that the manufacturer decides to use a plain packaging, and then we want to ensure that if there will be a wrapper on top, then it has to be there. The bottom line is, Mr. President, the graphic warning should be very clear. It should be in full color, and I believe that that is best. That is best done on the carton itself. So I have yet to see a product that printed it effectively or have even bothered to print it on the transparent wrapper.
May I ask for clarification?
Yes.
You mean the pack itself? Because carton is the
Yes, forgive me.
contains the pack.
Yes, I'm not a smoker either, so I may use the wrong terms, but I just mean what do you call this? The box? The pack. The pack.
This is a pack. No,
A pack.
Because
Yeah.
you have the carton. These are
Yeah. So what I'm saying, thank you for that clarification, Mr. President. All I'm saying is this pack that contains the one unit that is sold on the market that I believe contains 20 cigarettes. The normal practice is to print the graphic warning on this on the paper product, which is a thick type of paper.
Can you give us an example of clear packaging? Is there any
I'm not
packaging
I have not
in the
seen.
market that is described as clear packaging?
Okay. Yeah. I'm being shown, and if His Honor would like, I can have the page show this to him. I am being shown a sample of a cigarette pack, which this is a graphic warning. That has a graphic warning on the packaging, meaning the paper packaging, and then there was a transparent, clear sheet on top that with another picture. So effectively, it obstructed the graphic warning, and that is why the wording is such that whether you print it on the paper packaging or the transparent packaging, the objective is to have a clear picture-based warning.
So,
So in fact, a manufacturer may choose to print it on the transparent paper, and if it fulfills the requirements of the bill, which is that it is a clear and visible graphic warning, then it may be accepted. And the other requirement is that there is no other picture or labeling that obstructs the graphic warning.
the reason why I'm raising this because this is going to be distributed nationwide, and then people are people in the enforcement of this. They can easily use this for something else. No? So I want to clarify these terms. For instance, packages containing one product unit. What do you mean by this?
This is one product unit as sold. In other words, any package that is sold as a unit in the market, they call it, I think, an SKU.
Mm-hmm.
Then that one unit that can be sold must contain the graphic warning. So in other words, if I were to open this inside, there's no need. Because, well, we know the reality is tingi-tingi is sold in the provinces,
So
no?
it does not mean one stick of cigarette.
No, in as much as I'd like to address that problem, because the majority of the Filipinos in the provinces buy tingi-tingi, unfortunately, I cannot cover that with a graphic warning. So the smallest unit I can go is the pack like this, Mr. President.
Yes, because during the war, we used to have different packs. Pack of 5 cigarettes, pack of 3 cigarettes, pack of 10, and a pack of 20. That used to be a part of the PX system of that, if I remember correctly, because we were getting the C rations and during the war when we were in the field, and included in it are packs of cigarettes, but smaller quantities, just enough before you are killed. But anyway, joking aside, I will go on. I'm just trying to clarify these things. Tala. On line 5, page 3. Paragraph 2. The largest surface of any spherical, cylindrical, or conical container of tobacco products, and in the case of a package and carton that does not have a particular side or surface that is predominantly displayed or visible under normal or customary conditions of sale or use, the total surface area of the package. What is meant by this? Are we going to put under the law on the situs of the picture-based warning? It requires that it will be placed on top of the package. But here, in the case of spherical and cylindrical and conical packages, in the case of a spherical package, what is the largest surface of a spherical package? It's round.
Yes. Mr. President,
The whole thing, it would be the largest surface.
allow me to explain, Mr. President. As I mentioned earlier, the first rule that we covered was the two equal sides that will show the portion with the largest surface. So, although cylindrical packaging, I don't believe is common, I don't really see it in the market. I recall seeing it as more like specialty products that are made available by very premium brands abroad.
That's common for pipe tobacco.
For
Pipe tobacco.
a pipe tobacco. But I've actually seen it in cigarettes, I think.
Cylindrical, conical,
Yeah.
and spherical is common for chewing tobacco, for pipe tobacco,
So,
and especially they are put in cans. These are the cylindrical containers.
so if I may use my glass to demonstrate, if this were the display counter, then the law states that the bill states the largest surface of any spherical, cylindrical, or conical container. So that would be here. So that would be fronting. So if this is the image, it would be there. Not on top, not under, it would be there.
Yeah. So, but then, in the case of a graphic warning, not text warning, but a graphic warning, where will the
Here, same way.
the distributor or wholesaler or manufacturer put the graphic warning?
Here, Mr. President, as if it were pasted here, like this.
On, you can turn that around, you know.
Well, I would imagine the requirement is that it is the side or surface that is predominantly displayed. So just like a flatter packaging, it should be required to be put probably opposite each other so that when it is turned around, you can still see it. So if it would cover roughly around 40% on both sides, then it would be seen. I mean, we will have to assume good faith also on the part of those who are manufacturing. And in our numerous discussions with them, I think this is quite clear. But, you know, it's always good to be able to illustrate, which is what I'm doing now.
This is not common in cigarettes, but common in the case of cigars. Cigars. They sometimes they come in cylindrical containers and pipe tobacco. But anyway, we do not have that being marketed in the country, abroad. But some people are pipe users in this country, and some importers would be affected by this.
Yes, in smaller quantities.
Anyway, I'm just pointing this out. I'm sorry. I'm pointing this out in order that we can craft a better law. No? We can clean up the text to avoid any confusion or doubts. On line 10 to 11, subparagraph 3, page 3. All surfaces or panels, exterior or interior, of any tobacco product, packaging, or carton not specified above. Can we get an example of this?
Yes, Mr. President, actually, the reason for that subsection 3, is precisely to cover situations that are not, to cover packaging that are not currently on the market. So, to be perfectly honest, I don't know. The objective is to ensure that if there is any packaging that does not conform to traditionally used packaging, this subsection 3 will cover it. I don't know what that is.
This is
But in the
Jus dem generis already, or
sort of, Mr. President,
Some
in
sort
our
of just
in our
then-
committee report, we will be including a phrase here that will say that in the event of a new kind of packaging, the actual placement of the graphic warning should be pre-cleared with DOH just to ensure compliance, so that we also assist the manufacturers in not having to repeat if they're deemed non-compliant later on. But the traditional market, as we all know, are these rectangular shaped cartons or packs. So I don't think, I mean, I've been all over the country, and I mean all over the world, and most of the packagings are like this. So I don't think that will be a problem that we will have to contend with. But we still have subsection 3, just in case.
I think we can correct that later on during the period of amendment by percentages, if that will be acceptable to the...
Yes, of course, we will be very happy to accept amendments that will clarify and limit or eliminate any confusions in the descriptions of the requirements.
Now, Section 5, this is the transition period. Is this period of 90 days a reasonable period, given the fact that you have a nationwide distribution system of cigarette, and then you are going to withdraw the products that are currently being marketed non-compliant with this law after its enactment? Maybe we should revisit this and see a more reasonable time, so that it will not hamper the financial position of the operating companies.
The objective, our objective in the committee, Mr. President, is to be able to pass a law that can be implemented with the least amount of confusion and difficulty on the part of the parties involved. So we would like to, we will be open to accommodating a longer time frame if that will assist in the smooth transition.
We can accomplish that, but I agree with you that a measure like this should be implemented immediately, but we'll have to be a little bit reasonable with the people who will be affected, so that their lives will not be disrupted also. Anyway.
Yes, as I said, Mr. President, for purposes of smooth transition and less confusion, we are open to revisiting the period stated here.
I noticed that the bill uses a minimum always, and the terms used are no less than, at least, a minimum of, in no case. I think we should limit the discretion of the implementing agency on this, because we might be affected by an undue delegation of legislative powers to the administrative agencies that are going to implement this. These terms are what Justice Brandeis, or I think either Brandeis or Cardoso, said, uncanalized within the bounds which allows overflowing. So we must canalize, limit the discretionary area of the implementing agency. Otherwise, this will be unbridled delegation of power to the implementing agency.
Actually, Mr. President, your point is well taken. His Honor's point is well taken. However, I would just like to point out that at least in Section 5, where I'm reading subparagraph 8, which refers to at least 60% of the principal display shall contain the picture-based warning. That was not meant to be discretionary on the part of the implementing agencies. I'm just clarifying that was not the intent in the crafting of the law. It was really meant to be the minimum requirement for the manufacturer. So if there is a manufacturer there who believes that it is their moral obligation to even promote health further and they want to make it 70 to 80%, they have that liberty. But it is not. I agree with His Honor that we would not want to be giving that kind of discretion. So by all means, if there is any statements here that would appear, we would be very happy to make those corrections, because that is not the intention.
Yeah, because the way it is worded, we are not going to be here. This law will continue unless it's repealed. So
we are happy to make that clarification if it gives that.
This into the record, the administrators of the future who were not present in our discussion, who were not present at the creation, will not understand the meaning of this, and they will say, well, at least, if it is at least, then they can increase it to 100%. Because you establish a minimum compliance, and you give the implementer a discretion to increase it further if, in their opinion, the 60% is not enough to attain the objective. So maybe what we can do is not less than this percentage and not more than this percentage. So the discretion is within bounds.
We are happy to do that. His Honor's point is well taken. I was just clarifying the intention, my intention personally, as in the crafting of the bill itself. But by all means, we are happy to make any amendments that would again, limit or address any confusion or undue delegation that may be interpreted by agencies later on.
Yeah, thank you. The location of the picture-based warning will be at the upper portion of the panels or principal display areas. But if you have spherical, cylindrical, and conical packages or other types of packages, first you might not be able to put it in the upper portion because it will not be prominent in the conic, especially in the conical.
We assume, Mr. President, that the spherical container, if there will be one in the market, would still have a flat base. So on that flat base, there will be a portion that is prominently displayed towards facing the consumers, and it is that flat portion. The upper part of that the upper part of that flat portion that will contain the graphic warning. We can definitely add a phrase in the period of amendment to clarify that other shapes, to the extent possible, will conform with the guidelines indicated for the more traditional rectangular shape. In any case, we are also guided by Section 11 that requires that whatever the packaging is, the picture-based warning will always be prominently displayed. So that is the overlying principle there.
Because if you say not less than X% of the surface and not more than 60
yes.
Y% of the surface, maybe you can easily measure that, you know?
That's why perhaps we will need a phrase here that will also say that for shapes that have not been available or have not been sufficiently described in the measure, the underlying principle of prominently display and 60% of the surface should be complied with to the best, considering the best efforts of the supplier.
Online on line 13, page 4, sa paragraph F, a minimum of 8 variations of picture-based health warnings shall be printed simultaneously.
Was this meant to be,
And this shall be rotated periodically, not just for each brand family, but also for each brand within the family of each product size and type, so that at any time within the 12-month period when a set of picture-based health warnings are scheduled to be rotated, the variations of the warnings shall appear in the market with proportionate frequency and equal display of health warnings and messages on retail packages. Now, the question is, what do we mean by 8 variations of picture-based health warnings? 8 frames or
We mean 8 different pictures. So in this packaging that I'm holding, it is a picture of a mouth with decaying teeth. Another picture could be, I've seen one with focus on the throat with somebody who has throat cancer. A third picture I've seen is focus on the stomach with somebody with stomach cancer. So different picture depicting the different medical effects, the different effects of smoking on the body.
so this will be printed on the display surface simultaneously.
Sorry, it will be printed on the surface? No, one picture at a time. So in other words, a tobacco company would be given 8 different pictures which they will be required to rotate. And so, for example, in the month of January, they will use picture 1. Sometime later, they will use picture 2.
How often is the rotation?
Within a 12-month period.
So they can use one picture in 12 months, depending upon the guidelines of the DOH.
Yes, those specific guidelines will be given. But roughly, it is 8 pictures that would be rotated. The idea for that, Mr. President, is to ensure that people are not desensitized, because we also know that when you see the same picture over and over again, it no longer has any impact to a person. So,
because what I was concerned was the sentence, a minimum of 8 variations shall be printed simultaneously.
yes. So what will happen, Mr. President, is, for example, there is a batch. No, His Honor probably knows the manufacturing practices more than I do. But my understanding is, if there will be a batch printed that is good for 4 months supply, the 8 variations would be included there, but in the succeeding batches, those 8 will continually be rotated among the different products of one manufacturer, to ensure that, let's say you are smoking a particular brand and a particular what do you model? Ano ba tawag doon? A particular variant, you would, every time you pick it up, or not every time, but throughout the year, you would be exposed to different pictures.
Yeah. Now I understand. So, if you are smoking,
Every 4 months. Every 4 months, 12, 8 ng 8, 8 ng 8. For 2 in the first.
Yes, go ahead, Mr. President.
if you are smoking, for instance, Camel, I'll use that because that's a common brand that never varies. You have 8 variations. Variation 1 will be printed on that brand for maybe 3 months, and then variation 2 will be printed the next time, and so on and so on and so on until you finish the 8 and you come back to the first one again. Is that correct interpretation of this?
Well, my understanding, Mr. President, is that what we want to happen is that within a 12-month period, when you purchase your product, the chances of you receiving a different graphic warning is high. So such that they have to keep rotating these pictures so that the chances of you getting it is there's always a chance that you will get a different label.
In other words, in the market today,
For instance, in the case of this pack,
at any given time. Okay.
Winston, if we pass this law and
Wait, I can't understand.
you put the warning, the picture-based warning, you have 8 variations to be printed simultaneously.
Yes.
Here.
Well, so for example, they produce 20,000. Of the 20,000
Of this.
of this particular size, this particular variant,
Yeah.
of the 20,000, 20,000 will be divided by 8 types of graphic warning. So,
8 lots.
sorry?
8 lots. You divide
There will
it-
be 8 templates. So for ease of division, say they were to print 24,000. That means there will be 3,000 each carrying 1 picture. The second batch will carry not the second batch, but the second, the third, fourth. So when they release the 24,000 box pieces, there are 8 different warnings. So when you go to the store, and let's say a store has 24 pieces of this, you will be able to find all the 8 types in the store. At any given time, those 8 variants are printed.
So this color will have picture graphic representation with different
Yes. So as it is stacked in the shelves,
Yeah.
it's possible that this one would have picture A, the one behind will have picture B, the next one is picture A again, picture C, picture D.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, simultaneously there in the
Yes. At
the
any
same-
given time, all 8 are there, and then when they reprint, they will reprint all 8 again. After a period of 12 months, then they will give a new set of templates.
And I'm a little concerned about, because in a cartoon you have
20,
five-
10, 10 and 2
5 of this,
are just 5.
5 of this, and then 5 at the bottom. So it's about that size, a cartoon. So you divide
So there will be at least
8 by 10.
10 divided by 8.
10 divided
There will
by
be
8.
one of each, and there will be a duplicate of the other.
Yeah. That will happen, no?
Yes. Kami na lang nag-uusap.
I'm just trying to figure out how this will work in the market. I think we better
There was a FDA rule.
we better consult the people in the industry so that they will not be
FDA rule was then implemented. So ito muna.
confused.
Ito natalo.
Yeah, sorry, was there a question?
Yeah, no, I am just making a statement that
Okay.
we will have to, the Department of Health must consult the people in the industry in order that there will be a smooth transition
Yes.
in the, if we adopt this measure. No? Now, in the case of cigars, how will this work?
In terms of the packaging,
Yes, picture-based.
well, we follow, the bill describes, as I said, just the two types of packaging as default packaging, the rectangular shape with two dominant surfaces and cylindrical. And then we have the third catch-all phrase. So if there is any other,
Actually, when you display the cigars, I think, I do not know, the practice is just piled on top of the other, Alhambra or Tabacalera or whatever. How?
well, the requirement is that the dominant surface must contain a picture-based warning.
The dominant surface is the top.
The one on top. So if there's, if due to lack of
With,
display surface and there is only one on top, then I guess,
Contains the word Alhambra if it's Alhambra, Tabacalera if it's Tabacalera.
for so long as that surface which is predominantly displayed contains a graphic warning, then they are compliant. But I would imagine that all of them must contain it, because if somebody buys the top carton, then the next one will be displayed. So all of them must still contain the graphic warning.
Okay. Well, let the implementers deal with that. On line 21, subparagraph G, on page 4. In no case shall the picture-based health warning measures less than 2475 square millimeters in size, regardless of the type of tobacco package.
What is 2475? Like how small is that?
In no case shall the picture-based health warning measure less. Are we talking of each of the variations? Are we talking of each of the variations here when we say picture-based health warning,
Yes, because
or the total surface to be covered?
the picture-based warning that will be issued, the picture-based warning will have to adjust to the size of the packaging. So what the box, so what the bill indicates is that in no case can it be smaller than 2475 square millimeters.
Won't it be better to just say so much percentage of the predominant surface?
In a sense, yes, Mr. President. The concern of the committee there, though, was that the manufacturers might come up with a packaging that is so small, it would effectively negate the impact of the cigarettes.
No,
so
I'm talking
negate
of
the impact
cigars.
of the sign. Sorry, we're talking about cigars.
Yeah, because this law covers cigars, cigarettes, and other types of tobacco products. And well, if we're going to give definite measurements for each tobacco product, like chewing tobacco, sucking tobacco, snuffing tobacco, or smoking tobacco, we have to specify that. And that's going to be very cumbersome. But if you're just going to put a percentage of the packaging material, it's easy for the administrator and implementer of the law to administer the law.
We can do that, Mr. President. We will just have to refer to our resource persons on the common type of packaging for cigars. But I think we will still have that minimum requirement because we wouldn't want any product sold in such a small quantity such that we wouldn't want a product packaged in such a small quantity that the surface area would be too small to have an effective graphic warning.
Then maybe we can put in this measure that packaging materials for tobacco products shall not be less than what they are now.
Actually, yes,
And then
Mr.
we put the
President.
percentages so that we will.
We can also word it that way.
We will address the concern of the sponsor.
We can word it. We are open to wording it that way,
Because
Mr. President.
if we adopt this 2,475 square millimeters, and the shortest side of the health warning shall measure no less than 55 millimeter. I understand that in a soft pack cigarette, the width is only 53 millimeter. So you in effect remove the standard size of soft pack cigarettes from the market and require them to incur an extra 2 millimeter material to comply. So it measures 86. Soft pack cigarette is 86 millimeter long and 53 millimeter wide. Flip top is actually 88 millimeter long and 55 millimeter wide. So I think if we just follow these standards already adopted by the people in the market, it will not burden them in changing the sizes of their packaging materials.
We are open to that, Mr. President. Like I said, what we just don't want to happen is that there will be very small packaging material, in which case, if to say that we will just be adopting a percentage would also be agreeing to a smaller surface space if the packaging size is so small. So by providing for a actual count by way of square millimeters, we ensure that the size is still visible and clear to a consumer. So that is the limitation that the committee faces. But in any case, we are open to amendments, and we can accommodate it as long as the objective of the law is met.
Yes, but by the way, can we get any information from your technical people? What is the actual measurement of a pack of cigarette with this measurement? 2,475. 2,475 in measurement with a width of
Is that the 88 times 55?
square millimeters rather, and the shortest side of the health warning shall measure no less than 55 millimeters. What will be the size of this package? Can you give us the length and the width? The width is given here, 55 millimeters. What will be the length?
So yun ba yung 88 and 65? Oh, and then, what is the graphic line size? Yung for here, you're gonna make me use this. Tell me what it is here. Ito tinatanong mo. 2475.
Can we get back to you, Mr. President? They're explaining it to me, but I'm asking for more details.
Yes. Line 25, subparagraph H, picture-based health warning specifications. Still on page 4, subparagraph 1, the text warning accompanying the picture shall be worded in such a manner that an ordinary layman will understand what the picture is about and what are the ill effects of smoking on the health of the smoker and of the people around him. What would be the level of literacy of an ordinary layman contemplated by this provision?
Well, the main target of the bill is the youth. So we would want to ensure that it is as simple as possible. Not a child, but a youth without any understanding of medical terms. So if
grade 4, grade 5?
Perhaps, Mr. President, because perhaps we would want to avoid the words like carcinogenic, maybe referring to terms like emphysema, but very basic like because the law will also require that it is in English and Filipino. So, for example, it would say that cigarette smoking can cause cancer of the throat, and then there would be a picture showing a throat that is infected, and then in Filipino it would say na pwede ka magkaroon ng cancer sa lalamunan. I would imagine as basic as that.
Siguro kailangan pag-usapan natin yan sa period of amendment para.
Sure, we're very open to that, Mr. President.
Meron din akong suggestion. Dapat unahin natin yung salita natin Filipino. Yung Filipino first and English and then Filipino at the back. Unahin natin yung Filipino. That is on line 8. Page, I think this is page 5. Page 5, line 8.
Yes, English on the front panel and Filipino on the back panel, and alternately, Filipino on the front and English on the back. So they will be available on both sides. And they will also alternate it. The manufacturers will also alternate.
I think percentages would be will be much easier to understand, because even here, on line 3 on page 5, so paragraph 5, the text shall use up no more than 30% of the entire area of the picture. Then the administrator will say, what's the entire area of the picture-based warning? And then he will measure 4950. So maybe if we adopt X% of the surface, prominent surface, then 30% of that, or whatever.
Yes, we're open to that, Mr. President.
Yeah. Anyway, Mr. President, may I be permitted to stop my interpellation at this point? So that I will start on Section 6 next time.
That is definitely, Mr. President. But would His Honor want me to summarize the U.S. case so he can continue next time, or would you like me to put on record now? The U.S. case that His Honor asked for.
Yes, if you can.
So let me just summarize this briefly. In 2009, the U.S. passed a law, Family Smoking Prevention and Tobacco Control Act. Also in 2009, 5 tobacco manufacturers and a retailer filed suit in a U.S. District Court in Kentucky, challenging several provisions of the act. This was on the graphic warning. This was upheld by the U.S. District Court, and on appeal, the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Sixth Circuit also upheld that decision. In June 2011, the FDA was about to implement, or was implementing, publish the rules implementing said law. This was in June 2011. And in August 2011, 5 tobacco manufacturers filed suit in the U.S. District Court of Columbia to challenge the FDA's regulations governing graphic warning labels. In this case, the District Court found the graphic warning rule as unconstitutional, and this was upheld by the Court of Appeals. The case is now pending in the U.S. Supreme Court.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. President. Majority Leader.
Mr. President, I move that we suspend consideration of Senate Bill number 27, take into consideration Senate Bill 499 under Committee Report number 19.
Consideration of the measure is suspended.
Mr. President, we were going to take up House Bill number 4084 under Committee Report number 27, the granting of citizenship to Mr. Andre Blatch. But upon consultation, Senator Jinggoy Estrada has a couple more questions. And upon agreement with the chairman, Senator Angara, they will be taking this up Monday. But we are under deadline. So we requested that we indeed take this up by Monday. No? Because if we are going to grant such citizenship, there are deadlines for the leagues that are going to be participated in by the Gilas Pilipinas committee team, Mr. President. Mr. President, may I move for a minute suspension?
1 minute suspension.
Kalahati ng mga gusto ko ito.
Meron ka pa manifestation? Ready to resume, Mr. President.
Session is resumed.
Mr. President, the Deputy Minority Leader, Senator Soto, wishes to make a manifestation.
Yes, Senator Soto is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have received a letter from Senator Ralph Recto, and I would like to manifest that for Senate Bill number 2 and Senate Bill number 2161, Senator Ralph Recto be made a co-author.
Sir President,
Yes, Senator.
just for the record, the coaching staff of the Gilas Pilipinas and one of the legend sports commentators and longtime supporter of Philippine basketball, Mr. Quinito Henson, are also in the hall for House Bill number 4084, but they've been advised that we will be taking this up on Monday. Sir President, I move that we adjourn the session until 3 o'clock in the afternoon of Wednesday, May 14, 2014.
Session is adjourned until May 14, Wednesday at 3 o'clock in the afternoon.